My birthday arrived, and both the fourth princess and I had set our sights on the same pomegranate flower crown. Father was torn, so he told us to each pick a helper from among the clan's young men to compete in a horseback archery match. Whoever hit the flying paper kite first would win. I chose Liu Yang. The one I was closest to. I knew he could hit it with his eyes closed. He'd surely make my wish come true, but he shot 3 arrows in a row, each one just a hair's breadth off. After losing, I hid in the attic. Liu Yang found me, and my crying annoyed him. He said, "That big golden crown doesn't suit you anyway. You look much better wearing jade, simple and clean. Don't always compete with the fourth princess." He spoke earnestly. "Judge, you need to understand, sometimes fitting in is more important than winning." I took his words to heart, so later, when father chose a husband for me, even though Liu Yang came first in both the literary and martial exams, I didn't pick him. 0-1 The final martial exam was held in the archery garden. Father and the Empress sat on the high platform, watching with me as the young men galloped across the field below. This time, it was also archery, but not the playful kite contest from my birthday. Instead, palace guards held up small targets and ran ahead. The participants had to hit the moving bullseye, and only then would the eunuch mark a tentative circle on the roster. That meant they were selected as a potential husband. Liu Yang was the first to hit. He fought fiercely, even knocking a slender scholar in blue robes off his horse to overtake him and claim first place. On the high platform, the crowd gasped. Behind me, a noblewoman from the clan clutched her embroidered handkerchief and sighed, "Oh my, that young man is so reckless, he might hurt someone." Another woman covered her mouth with a round fan and whispered, lowering her voice to remind the first, "That's the Empress's nephew." The woman froze, pursed her lips awkwardly, and glanced at the Empress. The Empress frowned, also thinking Liu Yang had gone too far. "This a Yang, no sense of decorum. I'm sure His Majesty will punish him later," the Empress said, quickly ordering a palace attendant, "Help that injured young man down and call a physician." Father, however, laughed heartily and waved dismissively. "To marry my daughter, a man must be willing to go all out. That a Yang kid has both courage and strategy, I think is excellent." Father turned to me, his tone gentle. "Right, Judge, but I was distracted. I wasn't watching the victorious Liu Yang. Instead, I looked at the injured scholar. He hadn't given up despite his injury. Calmly, he reset his dislocated forearm, wiped the blood from his forehead, and remounted his horse. He shot third place. In our dynasty, princesses only chose husbands from the first and second places. He was just a hair's breadth away. No hope left. After the archery ended, it seemed Liu Yang knew the scholar. He ran over, patted his shoulder, and said something apologetic. The scholar shook his head gently. A dry summer breeze drifted lazily from under the eaves of the high platform, stirring the scholar's blue headband like a still lake disturbed. He looked up, meeting my gaze from afar. At the same time, Liu Yang noticed my attention. He grinned happily, showing a row of white teeth, and waved at me. I lowered my eyes, then turned to sneak a glance at the eunuch's roster. That third place was named Shenshou. 02 Shenshou's figure lingered in my mind. Even when fourth sister Zhao Xian came to bicker with me, I rarely responded. "Hey, Judge, cough, cough." It was the season when flowers bloomed and petals fell in late spring and early summer. Zhao Xian, as usual, had a stuffy nose and her cough flared up, so she hadn't watched the archery. Though she was the same age as me, naturally she was also at the age to choose a husband. Even while resting in her palace, her news was faster than mine. She'd already seen the eunuch's full roster. Liu Yang came first in the martial exam too. "That's a problem," she laughed, her eyes curving like crescent moons. "You know I always want to win, so naturally I'll pick the best husband, and you've always been clingy with him, so I doubt you'll let go. Looks like we'll have to fight again. What's the game, pitchpot, or chess? Hey, how about we play hide the hook this time? Write his name on paper, and whoever guesses first wins." By the window, I rested my chin on my hand and slowly shook my head. "I'm not playing." Zhao Xian paused, then tugged at my sleeve. "If you don't play, I won't hold back." I nodded faintly. "Oh," she frowned, then seemed to understand and relaxed, letting out a mocking laugh. "I get it. You're sure Liu Yang likes you and will only marry you, right?" This time, I was stunned. I lowered my hand and looked at her. He doesn't like me, he likes you, fourth sister. Zhao Xian raised an eyebrow. Ha, 03. Seeing she was even more oblivious than me, I teased her. Ever since we were kids playing together, he always gave you the best things, from a small bottle of rose water to that glittering golden pomegranate crown studded with pearls. He was always willing to lose to you. This time in the archery, he knew you loved being first, so he fought so hard, even injuring someone. Zhao Xian looked up, stunned, digesting this for a long time, thinking back to that crown. She glanced at me and said softly, I didn't know that was something Lady Ju wore. If you'd told me earlier, I wouldn't have fought you for it, nor would I have flaunted it in front of you. She bit her thin red lip and gently touched my fingertip. I'm sorry, the crown got broken. I shook my head, letting go of the grudge. You didn't know, and back then, when you came over to show it to me, I didn't say anything either. I just fought you for it, and that's how it broke. If sister were still alive, she'd only say I had a bad temper. She wouldn't blame you. In our palace, princesses and princes called the empress mother, while they called their birth mother sister. Lady Shen was my birth mother. She died very young. There were many princes and princesses in the palace. When I was little, without my birth mother to care for me, fourth sister's birth mother, Lady Wang, would comb my hair and apply face cream. Later, Lady Wang also died giving birth to sixth brother, so Zhao Xian and I became the only two princesses in the palace without birth mothers. I understood. She wasn't bad-hearted, she just loved to compete with me. Perhaps only that way could she relive those carefree times when we argued as kids, and Lady Wang would stand by, helplessly laughing, calling us little ancestors. Back then, I cried so bitterly. Besides missing my birth mother, it was because Lu Yang was one of the few who knew that crown had belonged to her. He knew, and yet, he still didn't win it back for me. From that moment on, my heart no longer raced for him. He favored fourth sister, and she admired ambitious men like him. They were a perfect match. I wished them well, but fourth sister, as if still oblivious, kept pressing me. After all, the crown incident was my fault. This time, whichever consort you choose, I won't compete with you. Tell me, is it the top scorer, Lu Yang, or the second-place minister's son? I stayed silent, touched my cheek, and walked out without a word. Behind me, fourth sister wondered aloud, why are you blushing? Are you sick too? Her voice trailed off like the cicadas droning in the shade of the palace eaves, dragging out the syllables. So, who are you choosing? 04. Everyone in the palace assumed that both fourth sister and I would pick Lu Yang, because he was simply too outstanding. As the nephew of the empress's family, he excelled in both civil and military arts. Without relying on family connections, he passed the imperial exams at 17 and became a scholar official. Father had high hopes for him, believing that his recent achievements in office would soon earn him a place at the central court. Though few consorts in history held real power, Father trusted the Lu family and didn't mind that. Thus, it was almost certain that Lu Yang would become the consort. I had no doubt he would surely be fourth sister's husband, but he seemed a bit anxious, calling for one of Her Highness's attendants to secretly invite me to the pavilion behind the deer garden. That pavilion was where we played as children. Lu Yang used to bring fourth sister and me things from outside the palace, storybooks, trinkets from the bustling markets, but after the crown incident, every time fourth sister called me, I never came, and I hadn't spoken alone with Lu Yang in a long time. The attendant led me to the pavilion and waited outside. I peered inside. A full antique shelf divided the room, with scorching midday sunlight dancing across ancient texts. Lu Yang stood before a window, rubbing a jade thumb ring with his fingers, lost in thought as he stared at a pair of dusty clay figurines on the partition. The door creaked shut. He looked up, saw me, and broke into a smile. Judgia. I was momentarily taken aback by the ingratiating warmth in his smile, then quickly understood. Oh, he must be uncertain about fourth sister's feelings and wanted to quietly ask me when he handed me a box. My suspicion was confirmed. Inside was a gold hairpin set with a ruber-like pomegranate gemstone, opulent and extravagant. He used to think I couldn't dress as lavishly as fourth sister, but now he'd spared no expense, giving me such valuable jewelry. What a generous bribe. Lu Yang looked at me nervously. Before, I hurt you, and you stopped wanting to talk to me. I was afraid I wouldn't pass on messages for him. I understood, so I gave him a reassuring smile. Don't worry. You came in first place, what's there to fear? The light in Liu Yang's eyes deepened, and he let out a sigh of relief. Really, that's great, Judge. You don't know how happy I am. Since he entered officialdom, he'd become much more composed. I rarely saw him smile so freely. But I understood, marrying the one you loved was always a joyful thing. Still, seeing him grinning ear to ear, I couldn't help teasing. If you freeze your face like that now, what will you do on the day you become the consort? Hearing this, Liu Yang quickly covered his face, rubbed it vigorously, and barely managed to calm down, but he kept staring at me, as if a butterfly had landed on my face. Feeling odd, I scratched my cheek uncomfortably. After a moment of silence, I remembered there was something I wanted to ask him. Lowering my gaze, I suppressed my shyness and asked softly, "That day, the young man you injured, is he all right?" 05, Shenshou. Liu Yang looked at me suspiciously, thought for a moment, then seemed to understand. "It's fine. You're worried I hurt him and got into trouble, right? He's actually a friend of mine. We studied at the same academy." He even sounded a bit aggrieved. Before the archery contest, I knew he was my biggest rival, so I sent him gifts and humbly begged him to go easy on me during the match. But he refused the gifts and competed fiercely for the top spot. I got angry in the moment, and a shadow of gloom passed over Liu Yang's brows. He glanced at me, then it faded, and he smiled. "Don't worry, I asked his family doctor. It's just a flesh wound, a few days of rest, and he'll be fine. It won't affect me." Good. I felt relieved but couldn't help asking further. "You know him well. What's his official position? Is his family from the capital?" In the pavilion, the dust motes hung still for a moment. Liu Yang's jaw tightened, his smile faded, his expression unreadable. "Why do you keep asking about him?" I looked away. Among the candidates, he was the only one I didn't recognize. "I was just curious." Liu Yang seemed a bit irritated. Him, just from a small household in Suzhou. He served in the provinces for a few years and was only promoted to the capital last year. Then, as if remembering something, he emphasized, at the academy, he was always extremely aloof. He despised climbing the social ladder. This time, the emperor ordered him to participate, and he only came to go through the motions. Is that so? A faint disappointment settled in my heart, seeing Liu Yang's impatience. I nodded and left, clutching the box. Just as I was about to leave, Liu Yang called out, "What kind of crown do you want this time?" I paused and casually answered with the style fourth sister liked. I left puzzled. The ceremonial crown for a princess's marriage was always prepared by the imperial court. Why was he worrying about it? 06. A few days later, I heard that he had begged the empress to make the princess's wedding crown extremely lavish, not just adorned with kingfisher feathers, but also covered in pearls. He offered to pay for the materials himself. Her Highness was pestered by him until she had no choice but to order it made according to the ceremonial regulations. But one crown was already too extravagant. Making two was out of the question. The palace attendants were all surprised by his favoritism. I was used to it. Compared to winning in appearances, what troubled me now was the choice of consort. Liu Yang said Shenshou wasn't willing to be a consort, so if I insisted on choosing him, it might only be torment for him. Thus, the final selection on the roster remained undrawn. The afternoon sun filtered through the latticed window as Zhao Xian came looking for me. After her nap, she found me staring blankly at the list of names, my fingers tracing the characters without really seeing them. Taking the paper from my hands, she said with a teasing lilt, "Still haven't chosen. Tomorrow father and mother will come to ask our intentions. If you don't pick, I can't very well choose either. Can I?" I leaned back, tugging at the palace sash, my mind tangled in knots. A low murmur escaped my lips, almost to myself. What if I choose him, but he doesn't feel the same way about me? Zhao Xian's eyes widened in surprise. "Who?" she demanded, her voice sharp with curiosity. She cupped my face, tilting it toward the bronze mirror she'd lifted, forcing me to confront my own reflection. "Look at yourself. With a face like this, how could you fear that the one you fancy won't fancy you back?" In the mirror, the woman wore plain attire, yet it couldn't dim the striking beauty of her features. There was color there, yes, but it wasn't the gentle, graceful look favored by this dynasty, hers was a face that had always drawn criticism. The scholars, bound by rigid propriety, were never satisfied with merely confining women to their chambers. They thrust their judgmental gazes into the deepest boudoirs, categorizing feminine beauty into tiers. Those who were demure and compliant were deemed superior, but beauty that bordered on the alluring, that was called bewitching, and a bewitching woman, they said, could ruin a household at the least, or topple a nation at the worst. Such judgments were especially taboo. Within the palace, my birth mother, Lady Shen, had entered the imperial harem and immediately captured the emperor's heart, outshining even the empress. Her favor spread to the court, sending the ministers into a frenzy of anxiety. They feared a sorceress would beguile their sovereign, leading to neglect of state affairs and the downfall of the kingdom. Memorials of admonishment fell like snowflakes, blanketing the emperor and Lady Shen. She grew despondent, and not long after my birth, she passed away from illness. Her death was a wound to me, but to the court officials, it was a sigh of relief. Liu Yang, too, had always believed that a woman shouldn't be born too beautiful. Since childhood, he'd advised me to dress plainly. When he refused to win back the pomegranate flower crown, his reason was simple. I don't want you to follow in Lady Shen's footsteps. A woman's face, capable of instilling such fear in men who had read thousands of books. It baffled me, if they all thought this way, would Shen Shou also be afraid that marrying me would bring chaos to his household? So I decided to send out a letter before choosing my consort. The letter was for my maternal uncle. In the old days, when my mother was favored in the palace, he had voluntarily sought postings far from the capital. Year after year refusing promotions, he thought this would protect her, but he never realized that the cause of her death was neither the threat of an influential maternal clan nor the sacrifice of a power struggle. It was simply a face that was too striking. My uncle was heartbroken, yet, with his vulnerability gone, he no longer hid his sharpness in officialdom. Over the years, he had risen to considerable prominence, serving as the examiner for many successful candidates. I reasoned that since Liu Yang and Shen Shou were from the same year, and my uncle had presided over that year's imperial examinations, he must know Shen Shou. A letter to him would surely yield answers. When my uncle received my letter, he wrote back, "Hearing is not as good as seeing. This June, when cherries ripen, I'll host a cherry banquet, inviting all the worthies of the court. Lana, come and see which one you fancy for yourself." Upon receiving his reply, I immediately pulled fourth sister along to seek father's permission. Father was reviewing memorials at his desk. He set down his brush with a soft laugh, thought for a moment, and waved his hand. "Fine, you two sisters are like caged birds, always wanting to fly out. Go ahead." Then he raised a finger and squinted, "But quietly, don't let anyone see you, understood?" No need to give those censors another chance to tug at father's hair with their endless debates. We chose an early morning, donning veiled hats, and slipped out through the East Prosperity Gate. My uncle had already prepared a carriage to meet us. The last time I'd left the palace was 4 years ago, during the New Year, when we'd disguised ourselves and followed father and mother to the marketplace to watch plays. It had been so long since I'd been out that fourth sister and I were giddy with excitement, pressing our faces to the window to watch the bustling streets across from us. My uncle gazed at me. After a long moment, he smiled and gestured with his hand. "The last time I saw you, you only reached my waist. You've grown." I smiled back. "Many years have passed, uncle. The pomegranate branches you sent back then, planted in front of Sister's offering hall, have grown tall, bloomed, and borne fruit 3 or 4 times now." Fourth sister turned around, nodding. "Sweet and delicious, really tasty." My uncle, his beard now grown, the corners of his eyes crinkling with age, let out a wistful sigh. "Yes, how could I forget? The pomegranates have ripened many times, and my little girl has reached the age for marriage." I paused, realizing he was thinking of my mother. The carriage stopped at the back gate of the Shen residence. The estate had been expanded, with a large landscape garden added to the rear, filled with pomegranate and cherry trees. Some were in bloom, others heavy with fruit, the branches laden and red as sunset clouds. Since my uncle rarely hosted banquets, the guest list was naturally long. To keep us from being seen, he arranged a boat feast. The guests were each in their own boats, the canopies removed so they sat in the open by the water. Our boat had curtains, keeping us at a distance. But we could see outside through the windows. There were too many people. At first glance, all I saw was a sea of bobbing black hats. Then, I caught waves of heated voices, as if the guests were arguing about something. Fourth sister pricked up her ears, her eyes darting. After listening for a moment, she suddenly understood. Oh, it's about that crown again. My heart sank. This was about me. A few days earlier, Liu Yang, at my prompting, had gone to drastically redesign a phoenix crown, but unexpectedly, some in the court had impeached him, accusing him of extravagant purchases, pearls, kingfisher feathers, fabrics, and jewelry from shops, not just in the capital but even from distant regions. His lavish spending had drawn the ire of several officials. This was supposed to be a matter of court, yet they couldn't stop arguing about it even at the banquet. Not far away, a few men waved their arms, their brows raised in indignation. Our dynasty has always upheld frugality in the palace, saving resources for the people. According to ritual, even an empress's wedding crown uses only 9 dragons and 12 pearls, and that's from a modified crown of the late Empress Dowager. Now, with 2 princesses marrying out, not only are the wedding crowns newly made, but they've added 6 pearls and kingfisher feathers. Do you know that 1 peck of pearls could feed 10 households for a year, and a single kingfisher feather is worth 100 gold pieces? In the shadows, fourth sister and I exchanged a glance, our lips pressed together in unease. My uncle, seated at the head table, remained silent, his face dark. Then, from under a pomegranate tree on the left, a cold, clear voice cut through the noise. I wonder where you gentlemen found your ritual texts. The 6-pearl, kingfisher feather crown has always been the standard for a princess's wedding. It's merely a bit newer than usual, and the funds for the purchases don't come from the state treasury. There's no violation of the rules. The words fell like ice striking a porcelain cup. Clearing my mind, I fixed my gaze in that direction. The man wore casual robes, his bearing noble and striking. It was him. Final English adaptation. During the last border drought, the 5th princess gave away all the rewards bestowed by the imperial household. She even dismantled her birth mother's flower crown, converted it into silver, and donated it to the Ministry of Revenue for disaster relief. He was speaking for me. You gentlemen have spent half the day arguing over whether a princess should wear a crown for her wedding, but do you still remember the money she donated before? It would be enough to buy who knows how many crowns now. I listened, stunned. There was pity in Shunsho's voice. Ordinary children, when they marry, are adorned in brocade and silk. Even if they have to borrow official robes at great expense, they do so. How is it that our princess cannot even wear a crown? What kind of reasoning is this? My 4th sister glanced at him, then at me, who was staring fixedly. She seemed to understand something and smiled faintly, but some senior officials, relying on their experience, saw his youth and shook their heads, saying he didn't understand the deeper principles. The princess is the emperor's daughter. Every garment, every ornament, every word, every action, she must be a model of feminine virtue for all under heaven. If she cannot endure momentary material desires, she will encourage a trend of extravagant adornment among women, causing them to lose their sense of propriety. If women are not proper, it will lead to unrest in the household. In severe cases, they may engage in clandestine affairs or elope under the cover of night, corrupting social morals entirely. Thus, how can the princess be worthy of the people's support? Again, these words, because she is a princess, because she is a woman, so everything she does invites 1,000 mouths to criticize behind her back. Horseback riding and archery. No, no, no. How could a princess do something so crude? If she inspires all the daughters of the realm to follow suit, what kind of refined lady would she be? Pleasure must be restrained, reading must also be restrained. She must be a model for women, reciting the female virtues and precepts backward and forward, never breaking a single rule or restraint. They demand that the emperor be a sage, so naturally, his consorts and daughters must be like the legendary Huang and Nuying. Any spark of brilliance is extinguished. They only want clay figurines of virtuous wives and good mothers, enshrined in their words for eternal praise. I couldn't take it any more. The curtain of the boat window swayed slightly, and my indignant voice emerged. You gentlemen read the books of the sages and claim to transmit their words, but have you yourselves become sages? Dare you say you have transcended desire and think only of the people of the world? The banquet fell into sudden silence. Several pairs of eyes, heavy with pressure, turned toward me, as if to say, what business does a woman have interrupting? Beside me, my fourth sister reacted instantly. She tightly grasped my hand and raised her voice to take over. Of course not, otherwise, why would they hold official posts and draw salaries? Why not distribute all their wealth to relieve the poor? The people support not only the emperor and the princess, they support them too. The world is full of 5 colors and 5 flavors, 7 emotions and 8 sufferings. The eyes are the medium, the heart is the desire. When these things fall upon a man, they are forgivable, but when they fall upon a woman, they are unforgivable. How ridiculous! The wind lifted the curtain, revealing a momentary glimpse. In that flash of light and shadow, Shunsho and I briefly locked eyes. He was slightly stunned, a glimmer of light in his eyes. The curtain fell, the wind settled. The banquet was so quiet that only my uncle's laughter could be heard. Ha ha, why are you all standing there? Eat the cherries, drink your wine. Someone recovered and tried to speak. Lord Shun, this, my uncle waved his hand, the princess's marriage, if considered a private matter, is enough for the emperor, as her father, to worry about. At the very least, there is the princess's maternal family. You gentlemen are neither relatives nor the groom. This has nothing to do with you. Just rejoice with the emperor. He smiled, but his brows were unyielding. If it is to be considered a state affair, today is a private banquet. No discussion, no discussion. The words were polite, but the meaning was far from it. You are all unrelated parties. It's not your money being spent, so stop meddling in matters that don't concern you. 10 On the way back to the palace, my uncle comforted me and my fourth sister. As for a crown, there are as many as you want. I'll provide them. My fourth sister smiled and agreed, laughing all the way. I poked her cheek. Did you drink too much sweet wine and go silly? She glanced at me sideways. I know. What do you know? I pretended not to understand. She snorted with laughter, sat up straight, and said, anyway, I know. I was a little nervous, staring at her. After a moment, she burst out laughing, turned around, and pinched my cheek. Little fool. Why are you so nervous? I'm not going to compete with you, she said softly. You have feelings for that person, and that person has feelings for you. I know. I was curious. Him, how do you know that too? The carriage headed toward the palace walls. The dappled shadows of trees fell across Zhao Xian's delicate brow. She leaned against me, truly like an older sister now, and stroked my head. Silly child, didn't you hear? He knows everything about you, even about you donating your crown. It seems he's had you in his heart for a long time. Is that so? I didn't even know when I had crossed paths with him. My fourth sister rested her head against mine and sighed. Judgia, you're right. Sometimes, being suitable really is more important than winning. Choose him. You will surely fall in love. 11 But I hadn't yet asked Shunsho's opinion. After returning, I thought it over carefully and wrote another flower note. This time, I entrusted it to someone else the next day. The sixth prince, Zhao Chong, carried a fragrant flower note in his bosom. The scent of jasmine made him sneeze repeatedly. The young boy, still innocent of romance, didn't know what it was for. He only thought his fifth sister was doing what those blushing maids did, giving him 2 pieces of sweet cake to bribe him into delivering a letter to a handsome teacher. The prince attended lectures, with various officials taking turns teaching at the lecture hall that day. It happened to be Shunsho from the Jishen Academy, and Liu Yang, who had just returned from leave. One taught national history, the other taught martial arts. Liu Yang had just returned and didn't yet know about the storm caused by a crown. When he entered the hall, Zhao Chong was just handing the letter to Shunsho. Zhao Chong was a bit intimidated by Liu Yang in the past. The fifth sister always asked him to deliver things to Liu Yang, either embroidered handkerchiefs or a pair of cute clay dolls. Liu Yang would always smile, but for a while, the fifth sister stopped asking Zhao Chong to deliver things. Liu Yang never smiled again. The assignments he gave were always difficult, and he was as cold as a demon. Zhao Chong was very troubled. He didn't understand the awkward feelings between men and women. He just instinctively felt that he couldn't let Lu Yang know the origin of this letter. In a panic, he stood up and blocked Lu Yang's view. Shen Shou, affected by his nervousness, also covered the letter with his sleeve. In the interplay of light and shadow, Lu Yang raised an eyebrow. He thought it was just another palace maid smitten with Shen Shou, coaxing Zhao Chong into delivering a love letter, so he teased Shen Shou. "Brother Shen, you're drowning in luck with the ladies." Shen Shou ignored him, and he didn't care. Lately, everything had been falling into place for him. His brows and eyes practically danced with smug satisfaction, hinting at good news on the horizon. Shen Shou noticed it, and he'd caught wind of some whispers too. Those magpie-like little palace maids always gathered under the eaves, chattering away. Even if Shen Shou tried to shut out the world, he couldn't help overhearing a thing or two. He'd arrived in the capital last winter to lecture the princes at the palace. For nearly half a year, he'd heard many things, most of all, about the fifth princess, Zhaolan. How radiant she was said to be, how beloved by the emperor and empress, how easygoing her nature. Her attendants never suffered punishment. Whenever news came of a disaster somewhere, she was the first to donate gold and silver. If she learned of a poor palace servant, she'd always give them a reward. But such a good princess often fell short in many ways. She couldn't get the flower crown she wanted for her birthday, and she couldn't choose the best consort for her marriage. The ones she liked never liked her back. Shen Shou felt a pang of pity when Lu Yang approached him, asking him not to stand in the way during the martial exam. Shen Shou suddenly didn't want to agree. He wasn't a competitive person, but in that moment, he had a mind to beat Lu Yang. When he fell off his horse and still got up, wiping away blood to keep running, he didn't understand what he was doing anymore. He'd never even seen the fifth princess. Was it worth fighting so hard over some rumors becoming the princess's consort? He'd never thought about it. Maybe he was just projecting his own situation onto the fifth princess. He and Lu Yang both bore the title of child prodigy, but in the academy, he was inferior to Lu Yang, and in the imperial exams, he placed one rank lower. Later, as an official, he drifted from place to place, while Lu Yang rose straight to the top in the capital. Maybe the fifth princess and he shared a similar sorrow in some corner, trying their best, yet still walking under people's critical eyes and sharp tongues. Nothing going right, everything falling short. He wanted to win once, to let her see, to make her like him. He saw her too, the woman on the high platform, dressed in plain clothes that didn't do her justice, her brows and eyes holding a breathtaking clarity. But he lost, and they missed each other. He couldn't become her consort, couldn't make the one he liked like him back. A single flutter of the heart brought him injuries and sleepless nights. When the eunuch invited him to lecture, he could have refused, but he endured the pain and came anyway, for no other reason than to hear news of her here. Listen, the magpies were chattering again this time. They said that in 10 days, the ritual official would announce the consort selection. If both the fifth princess and the fourth princess chose Lu Yang, the emperor would be in a bind. Amid the noisy chirping of cicadas and magpies, Shen Shou quietly walked to the back hall. His fingertips paused. Briefly, his Adam's apple bobbed, and he slowly tore open the flower-patterned letter that would decide his fate. Whoosh whoosh, the summer jasmine-scented breeze blew, soothing the injured corner of the man's forehead, then trailing down to his handsome lips, and further down, into his thumping chest. It turned into a soft little hand, grasping hold, willingly. He was chosen 12. The moment I received Shen Shou's reply, my heart settled. Just then, fourth sister called me to go together to Mother's palace. Today, we had to decide on the consort selection. We gave our answer to Mother. She was a bit surprised, pondered for a long while, then smiled and said, "That's fine too, though it doesn't follow the old rules. Marriage is a big matter, and it should follow your own hearts." As we were about to leave after speaking, Lu Yang arrived in a fluster. Because of the rumors and gossip in the court, afraid of public criticism, he quickly halted the process of making the wedding crown. Fourth sister and I stood behind the folding screen by the window, hearing his tone tinged with complaint. I really shouldn't have listened to Jiao and wasted money on that useless wedding crown. All that real gold and silver spent, and it only brought a swarm of censors' spittle. Mother sighed, scolding him. How can you blame Jojo again? You've always had your eyes on Jojo since she was little, but you've also been critical of her, not to mention the palace even in common folk. Marriages, parents and husbands save up dowries and betrothal gifts for 10 or 20 years, all for that moment of joy and glory. Mother shook her head. Now that our princesses are getting married, everything has to be cut back. Those officials, each one stares at the emperor's private treasury. Whenever something comes up, they clamor for money, demanding the emperor open his coffers and the harem practice frugality. In truth, who knows how much money they have, when disaster relief is needed, they all cry poverty. But when it's their own birthday banquets or children's weddings, whose celebrations aren't lavish, Mother saw clearly and was a bit disappointed, saying to Liu Yang, "You grew up in the palace, you know the emperor and the harem's hardships, we can't take a single wrong step. Hundreds of eyes watch every rule, now they criticize, and you criticize too. Go back." Liu Yang was at a loss. He paused, then tried to make amends. "I was thinking too narrowly. I'll still go buy the pearls. Please, Mother, comfort the princess for me." Mother waved her hand. "It's no longer your concern. Go." The dim sunlight fell on the folding screen like a dividing line, splitting the embroidered birds perched in pairs among the branches into two halves. Liu Yang didn't understand. 13 Word had it that to find the brightest and best pearl. He took leave again and rushed off. Word had it that he suffered heatstroke, slowing him down, and was one step too late, missing the palace banquet on the day the consort was announced. That day the result was unexpected, and so was the weather. Just as the eunuch called out the consort's name, after days of scorching heat, the sky suddenly rumbled with faint summer thunder, the lotus pond stirred, and a rain shower pattered down, bringing a refreshing coolness. Everyone exclaimed at the timely rain, and also at the consort the fifth princess had chosen, academician of the Jishen Academy, Shenshou, dressed neatly in a formal head wrap, stepped forward respectfully and received the decree. But the fourth princess didn't choose. She begged her father, "I don't want to keep chasing first place anymore. I want to be like Jojo, to choose the one who suits me, and spend my life with him." Father agreed. He had always been kind and tolerant, to the people and to his children alike. He turned to me behind the curtain and said gently, "Marriage matters are to be told to one's parents. Go and tell your sister." I stood up, my eyes glistening. She couldn't wait another moment. Lifting her skirt, she dashed out of the pavilion. Behind her, her father let out a helpless sigh. "This girl, quick, someone grab an umbrella." The empress tugged at his sleeve, offering a gentle smile, and gestured for him to look in that direction. "No need, someone's already following her." Unexpectedly, that aloof and cold scholar Shen, in front of the princess, turned into a blundering young man. Without even grabbing an umbrella, he raised his sleeve and ran over to shield her from the rain. A pair of youthful figures, both radiant and bright, like the pomegranate blossoms blooming on the branch, undiminished in their elegance even as the wind and rain lashed against them. The emperor shook his head and let them be. He tilted his head back, lost in thought, wondering when, in what year, what month he had once, at this very age, broken through the palace's constraints with a certain lady. Like a pair of swallows, bathed in the celestial rain, a fleeting moment of brilliance, just that single instant of freedom to love was enough to be etched into memory forever. The emperor gazed at the sky and let out a soft laugh. Good wind, good rain, 14 This timely rain fell upon Liu Yang, who had arrived a step too late, like a thunderbolt from a clear sky, who, he stood behind, doubting whether his summer heat stroke had yet to pass. Grabbing a nearby eunuch by the collar, he asked again, "Who is the fifth princess's consort?" The eunuch stammered, "It's Scholar Shen of the Jishen Academy, Shenshou." Liu Yang stumbled back a step, pressing his hand against his throbbing, aching forehead. How could this be? Jia didn't even know Shenshou. How could she have chosen him? The rain had muddled his mind. He couldn't find anyone to confront, so he lashed out in impotent rage at the person beside him. They don't even know each other. How can they be husband and wife? The eunuch, baffled by this sudden outburst, thought to himself, this Master Yang is truly strange. Ever since he was young, he's always tried to control the fifth princess, going against her wishes in everything. Now that her marriage is settled, he still has to stick his nose in. What business is it of his? But of course, the eunuch couldn't say such things out loud. On the surface, he maintained a polite, amiable smile. Who knows how the old man of the moon ties his red thread? But Liu Yang refused to accept it. He clung to the eunuch, demanding an explanation. I was the first. I was clearly first in everything. The eunuch was at a loss. Fortunately, Zhao Xian walked over at that moment, breaking the deadlock. Enough. Let go. How ugly is this? Liu Yang. He stood in the rain, his head bowed, murmuring, it's just bad timing. If I had only known sooner. It's not about timing. Zhao Xian cut him off. Some people seem to seize the lead in everything, occupying the best opportunity from the start, spending years together, childhood sweethearts like a boy on a bamboo horse chasing after a girl playing with plum blossoms, yet in the end, they remain as strangers, white-haired but still new to each other, and others seem to miss by a hair's breadth, but in the unseen depths, their hearts have already connected. With just one glance, they grasp the red thread and never let go. You've never truly asked Jujia what she wants in her heart, so stop saying you're doing it for her own good. Zhao Xian pierced through the false affection of this childhood friend. When you win, it's for yourself. When you lose, it's the same. The rain slanted down. She stepped past the frozen Liu Yang and, with great kindness, advised, don't keep such an ugly expression. Practice a happy smile. Otherwise, on the day the princess is married off, you won't be able to force one out when you help clear the path for the wedding procession. The corner of Liu Yang's stiff mouth twitched. The eunuch who had been watching the spectacle shuddered. That smile, it was uglier than crying. 15 in the 9th month, when the pomegranates were fresh, the princess was married off this time. Her father showed a rare streak of firmness, silencing the minister's complaints. Not only did he grant me a new wedding crown, but he also permitted me, after bowing to the emperor, empress, and the imperial ancestral temple, to bow once more to my birth mother, Lady Shen. In the side hall where Lady Shen's spirit tablet was enshrined, the pomegranate tree was heavy with fruit, bathed in the summer light. After all the rituals were completed, the ceremonial official stepped forward and said, Your Highness, it is time to return to the princess's mansion. I paused, looking up at the tree, feeling a lingering attachment and reluctance. My fingertips moved as if to reach out, then curled back and withdrew. The person beside me seemed to read my mind. Knowing what I wanted, he reached out and plucked a pomegranate from a high branch, the reddest one, an action that exceeded the rules, yet Shenshou performed it with natural ease. He smiled at me. Let's go, Your Highness. Take your subject home. The ceremonial official's aged face was filled with helplessness as he reminded us again. Please, consort, hold the red silk, don't rush to hold Her Highness's hand, and don't casually pick the fruit. I held the heavy pomegranate in my hands and smiled secretly. I said to Shenshou, You've broken the rules. Shenshou didn't let go of my hand. His brows and eyes were bright and clear. Your subject is shallow in learning. I only know Your Highness's rules. I was surprised, saying I hadn't yet set any rules for him. Shenshou said, To let Your Highness have her way, that is the greatest rule your subject must keep. With that, he pulled me along, like the most ordinary husband and wife in the world, walking past the ceremonial official who shook his head with a wry smile. This journey was a departure from home and also a return home. In that moment, I held the plump pomegranate, as if holding his true heart, just like the feeling his reply letter had stirred in me that day. He said, Your subject has long admired Your Highness, like a dry pond longing for rain, like a solitary nest yearning for the phoenix's arrival. Though my body has not yet reached you, my heart has already journeyed there. The end, now, let's listen to the second story. I have been married to my husband for 7 years, yet my womb remains empty. We both thought it was each other's fault until one day my husband rode 1,000 li and brought back a handsome man. He hesitated, then said, He can help you conceive a child. I was shocked, then moved, and nodded, making the best use of everything. A year later, my husband returned in triumph to the capital. I cradled my belly, my face full of gratitude. "Husband, the man you introduced is very effective." His face turned pale, and he gritted his teeth. "That's the doctor I hired to regulate your health." 1 Ju Cheng'en was fond of my beautiful half-sister, but my father had a rebellious streak, he agreed. Verbally, but then turned around and stuffed me into the Ju family's bridal sedan chair on the wedding night. Ju Cheng'en lifted the bridal veil and found the product didn't match the label. He coldly threw down the nuptial wine cup, saying he wanted to beat the drum of appeal and take my father to court. Upon hearing this, I lost my composure and said, "Can we wait until after we've consummated the marriage to go to court?" I didn't want to be laughed at by my sisters for being returned intact. Fortunately, Ju Cheng'en cared about his face. The Ju family had been high-ranking officials for generations, a family of pure and noble lineage. He was the precious legitimate son. Naturally, he wouldn't let a marriage become the laughingstock of the entire capital. The switcheroo had to be accepted as it was. He swallowed his anger and picked up the nuptial wine cup. He drank it with me, pulling the red silk curtains closed. He grumpily consummated the marriage with me. Above, it was full. Below, it was full as well. I left at dawn, pulling away without a trace of lingering attachment. His cold demeanor told me plainly, even if I had his body, I could never have his heart too. Fortunately, I had won over his mother's heart. She cherished me for my steadiness, propriety, and my appearance of a virtuous wife. Under her protection, no matter how much Ju Cheng'en despised me, he dared not treat me poorly. Night after night, he stayed in my chambers in front of others. He even played the part of a devoted husband. But 7 years slipped by like water through my fingers. Ju Cheng'en and I remained childless. Meanwhile, my younger half-sister had already borne her husband 3 children. When I saw her again, she was still beautiful, holding a swaddled infant, her figure now carrying an extra layer of charm. 2 little ones toddled around her, babbling nonsense, unbearably adorable. Ju Cheng'en's heart grew restless again. Back at the mansion, he sneered with a cold laugh. 7 years of marriage and still no heir. How useless can you be? I looked at him with pity, reluctant to shatter his fragile pride. His mother had summoned countless famous physicians to examine me, but none could find anything wrong. She then had the doctors check his concubines. Still, nothing. His mother's vision darkened. Could it be that my son? Yes, I had arranged 7 concubines for Ju Cheng'en, all from respectable families. 7 years passed, and none of them became pregnant. Clearly, the problem lay with the seed. I didn't want to argue with Ju Cheng'en, but his words cut deep. "No wonder your father insisted on foisting you onto me. He must have known you had this chronic defect, that you couldn't be married off to a good family, so he used this method to get you wed." How could he be so confident, so utterly convinced the fault was mine? In the end, we had a massive fight. I lost control and slapped him across the face. Ju Cheng'en, furious, knelt before his mother with a bright red cheek, demanding to divorce me. His mother was horrified. "No," she spoke earnestly. "Son, who would want a worthless woman who can't bear children? You know, a man who can't produce heirs." Ju Cheng'en quickly covered my ears. He sighed. "Even if Qingwan can't conceive, why must you speak so harshly?" "Mother, me, mother-in-law." 3 Ju Cheng'en, in a fit of anger, petitioned the court to lead an army on an expedition. After he left, my father-in-law fell gravely ill. He had 5 sons and 3 daughters, but only Ju Cheng'en was born of the legal wife. If he died before Ju Cheng'en's line produced an heir, the vast family fortune would fall into the hands of the concubine's children. My mother-in-law had spent half her life as the legitimate wife, managing the household and raising her children. She had finally seen her own son rise above the bastards, yet now, because of infertility, she faced losing everything. She came to me privately, weeping for a long time. After soothing her to sleep, I picked up my brush and wrote my first letter to Ju Cheng'en, asking if he could find time to return. "We could try again, maybe there would be a miracle." Ju Cheng'en replied quickly, his words as harsh as ever. "You haven't written to me in half a year, and the first thing you mention is children. Are you treating me as a tool for breeding?" Of course not. He didn't have that capability. Still, he requested leave and returned, traveling day and night, covering thousands of miles in an instant. The moment he stepped through the door, he pushed me onto the bed, tearing off our clothes. burying himself in the task as if driven by desperation. I was a bit puzzled. I had sent 2 concubines to accompany him in the southwest. Why did he seem like a man who hadn't touched a woman in ages? During a break, I couldn't help but ask about those 2 concubines. Zhu Cheng'an toyed with my hair, then suddenly darkened his expression. Why do you keep pushing concubines on me? At home, it was to appease mother and outsiders, but now that I'm away, no one dares pressure you. Why are you still so obsessed with shoving women at me? He stared into my eyes, his face cold. I wept. I just want you to have an heir soon. Zhu Cheng'an watched me in silence for a moment, then lowered his head to kiss me. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. I've already found a way to handle the heir issue. For when I woke up, Zhu Cheng'an was already gone. He left only a note. While I'm away, he can make you pregnant. I stared at the young man before me, his face youthful and handsome. I was utterly shocked. This was his solution. I was a woman of virtue. I couldn't commit such a heinous act. As I wrestled with my thoughts, my mother-in-law burst in cheerfully, inviting me for tea. Chengming said he left you a treasure that will ensure you conceive by next year. Before she could finish, she strode into my room and froze in shock. Is this what Chengming gave you? A long silence followed. She swallowed hard, closing her eyes. She took a step back. I saw nothing. Qingwan, carry on. I'll stand guard outside. As she left, she thoughtfully closed the door. I was left alone with the young man. Zhu Cheng'an had departed in haste, leaving me only a few words. He was from the Miao tribe in the southwest, named Jiyu Heng, and didn't speak the Central Plains language. Oh, and he mentioned this man was a physician. I understood. I needed to give him a legitimate reason to stay in the mansion. Jiyu Heng stood there silently, around 16 or 17, as beautiful as a magnolia flower. He looked like an innocent youth. I wondered what Zhu Cheng'an had used to force him into this sordid business of providing seed. I reached out my hand to him. He lowered his eyes and stepped forward, placing 2 fingers on my wrist to check my pulse. I turned my hand, grabbed his wrist, and pulled him closer, smiling. Are you doing this willingly? He started slightly, then nodded seriously. After a few seconds of silence, I stood on my tiptoes and kissed him. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the young man's earlobes flush crimson. He pushed me away forcefully, tears brimming in his eyes, and stumbled out of the room. At first, I thought Jiyu Heng was just young and shy, so I tried to be gentle and accommodating with him in every way. I even took out the delicate undergarments I had been saving for Zhu Cheng'an and wore them for him, but Jiyu Heng always kept his eyes tightly shut. As if I were humiliating him when pushed too far, he would threaten to bite off his tongue. Only the changes in certain places told me he was aroused. He just didn't want to act on it. After being pushed away again, I felt frustrated and wronged, and wrote to Zhu Cheng'an, husband, your friend treats me very perfunctorily. When I stand before him, he closes his eyes and can't even be bothered to look at me. I treat him well with good food and drink, taking care of him in every way, yet he gives me a cold face, as if I'm the one bullying him. Final English adaptation. The letter must have been lost somewhere along the way, because Zhu Cheng'an never sent me a reply. I finally lost my patience. I decided to let Jiyu Heng go. You can leave now. Jiyu Heng pressed his lips together, those dark eyes fixed on me, unreadable, swirling with emotions I couldn't name, rejected so many times. I could barely hold it together anymore. You're just like Zhu Cheng'an. Neither of you likes me. Fine, I won't force you. Worst case scenario, I can't have children, get thrown out of the house, no one cares, end up on the streets. I sobbed for a while, then I stood up, straightened my clothes, and prepared to leave, but when I pushed the door, I froze. It was locked. Thin wisps of fragrance drifted in through the window. It was an aphrodisiac incense. My mother-in-law's voice came from outside the door. Qingwan, go ahead without fear. This boy isn't getting away today. Not only was he not getting away, I wasn't getting away either. The last thing I remembered, before consciousness slipped away, was being dragged onto the bed. Jiyu Heng's eyes were red the entire time, as if he were the one being forced. My limbs were limp and weak as I tried to crawl away, but he pulled me back beneath him. The next morning, I had to lean against the wall just to go pay respects to my mother-in-law. She took pity on me and gave me many tonics. There were other siblings in the household, Ji Hung's presence couldn't be discovered. My mother-in-law thought for a moment, then said, I have a house outside the city. Few people know about it. Just say you're going there to pray for me, and take that boy to live there. Don't come back until you have good news. The house was nestled by the mountains and rivers, with beautiful scenery there. I taught Ji Hung the Central Plains language. Holding his hand as he wrote my name, he learned quickly. Within just a few days, he could communicate with me normally, but all he did was curse me. He cursed me for taking his first time, for making him break his vows, for knowing his father would beat him to death when he went home. He cursed me for being shameless, having a husband yet still seducing him, ruining his life. I asked him how he met Ju Cheng'an. He snorted coldly. I saved him while gathering herbs in the mountains. He gave me 50 taels of silver and told me to cure your illness. I never thought he'd repay kindness with enmity. Conspiring with you to trick me into this. Cure my illness. My body was perfectly fine. Why would I need treatment? It was just Ju Cheng'an's lie to traffic people. But thankfully, heaven rewards those who persevere. I was pregnant 2 weeks later. Ju Cheng'an returned to the capital in triumph. 3 days after that, my father-in-law passed away. After seeing off the morning guests, my mother-in-law let out a long breath. It's practically 3 blessings at once. Ju Cheng'an said nothing. His gaze never left my face. Inside the room, he looked me over and frowned. You've lost a lot of weight. Has Ji Hung been slacking off? I shook my head. He's been very diligent. He does everything himself. Ju Cheng'an sighed and lowered his eyes. You've suffered. Not at all, not at all. I couldn't help but chirp happily. Husband, the method you thought of worked really well. Ji Hung got me pregnant after just a few tries. Ju Cheng'an's eyes suddenly froze. After a long moment, he asked in disbelief. What method? Why was he acting like this? Did he really need me to spell it out so clearly? It was so embarrassing. I whispered, Husband, the moment you brought Ji Hung before me, I understood your painstaking intentions. Even though borrowing a seed to bear a child isn't exactly honorable, since you can endure it, so can I. At first, that Ji Hung wasn't cooperative. He resisted me several times. I almost gave up, but you kept writing letters to encourage me, so I persisted. And now, finally, there's good news. Ju Cheng'an's face turned paler and paler as I spoke. His voice trembled. Borrowing a seed. I nodded. He stared at me blankly, his gaze finally settling on my belly. Ji Hung. Something felt wrong. I didn't dare nod anymore. I smiled awkwardly and slowly backed away. Mother-in-law needs her medicine. I'll go attend to her. Out of the corner of my eye, Ju Cheng'an stood there like a statue, completely still until I stepped over the threshold. Then, as if suddenly snapping out of it, he laughed coldly and grabbed my wrist. Grinding his teeth, "Here's the doctor I found for you." 7 Late at night, I stiffly pushed open the small courtyard gate. I looked up and saw Ji Hung's bright eyes. He was wearing only a thin, gauzy robe, standing in the draft, as if he had been waiting for a long time. A few seconds later, his face turned cold, and his voice was full of displeasure. "You finally decided to come back. Didn't you say you were just going to see your mother-in-law and then come right back? Why did it take so long?" He sat down sideways, showing only his incredibly beautiful profile, and said coldly, "I already hate you. If there's a next time, you might as well not come back at all." He had said this to me countless times before in the past. I would remember his good looks, his youth, and the wrong done to him. Whenever he got angry, I would voluntarily sit on his lap and coax him gently. "With you here, how could I bear to leave? When you ignore me, my heart aches. Touch me, you smell so good. I've never liked anyone this much before. I can't live without you. Let me see your legs." But at this moment, those words sounded like music to my ears. "Then I'll be going now, you." Before I could finish, Ji Hung suddenly grabbed my wrist, like a cat whose fur had been ruffled. "How dare you leave?" Realizing he had lost his composure, he lowered his eyes for a moment, then said coldly, "Don't misunderstand. It's not that I've fallen for you. I just hate being alone in the courtyard." Under the moonlight, his expression was a little desolate. I couldn't bear it. "You can go out and play by yourself. You know, you don't have to wait for me all the time." I never locked him up, but he lifted his eyelids and sneered. "Only had me for a few months, and you're already tired of me." I shut my mouth. then struggled to open it again. I just came to see you. I'll leave soon. Ji Hung was silent for a moment. Your mother-in-law's illness isn't better yet. No, my husband is back. As soon as I said that, I sighed and turned to leave. Behind me came the sound of porcelain shattering, and maybe sobbing. The carriage I had arrived in was still waiting outside the courtyard. I lifted the curtain and climbed in. Then I smiled guiltily. Husband, 8 Ju Cheng'an had forced me to come here. He had searched the entire mansion for Ji Hung but couldn't find him. I had tried to fool him into thinking Ji Hung had run away, but he had spent years on the battlefield. He was far smarter than me. A few words, and he had coaxed out the location of this small courtyard east of the city. On the way there, Ju Cheng'an's gaze cut into me like a blade. Did you buy yourself a little love nest just to cheat on me? No, I didn't buy it. I spoke timidly. It was a gift from someone else. He let out a light scoff. Whoever gave you this estate must have known you were planning to keep a lover hidden away, right? I nodded. A flicker of murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Who? I hesitated. Then finally spoke. Your mother. By the time we reached the small courtyard gate, Ju Cheng'an's face was as pale as paper. He seemed a bit stunned, leaning his forehead on his hand as he let out a hollow laugh. I had no choice but to go in alone to meet Ji Hung. When I came out, Ju Cheng'an looked a little better. Though he hadn't entered, he had already ordered his personal guards to surround the courtyard. On the way back, I asked cautiously, What are you going to do with him? He glanced at me, his voice cold as ice. Bury him alive. I was startled and grabbed his hand. He was forced into this. At first, he genuinely wanted to treat my illness. I was the one who kept misunderstanding him. Ju Cheng'an couldn't listen anymore. He let out a cold laugh. Su Qingwan. Are you stupid? Could you have forced him? Couldn't he resist? Doesn't he have legs? Couldn't he find a way to run away? That made sense. I fell silent for a moment. Then what do you plan to do with me? He let out another scoff, his face expressionless. Naturally, I'll bury you two adulterers in the same pit. Oh, and that bastard child in your belly. The three of you, a perfect family reunion. 9. I didn't want to die. The first thing I did when I returned to the manor was to go find my mother-in-law. She hugged me and sobbed for a long time. If you want to kill Qingwan, you'll have to step over my dead body first. You rotten man. Just like your father, he keeps a harem of wives and concubines, sleeping around every day, but his wife can't even sleep with another man once. Ju Cheng'an couldn't take it anymore. Who's sleeping around? I stammered. You have 7 concubines. I've never slept with them. Her, my mother-in-law, and I stared at each other. Ju Cheng'an grabbed me without a word and dragged me back to our room. As soon as the door closed, I collapsed against him, clinging and kissing him in a desperate struggle. What about a divorce? Divorce? He froze for a moment, then suddenly grabbed my arm. Divorce so you can fly away with that bastard. Don't even think about it, Su Qingwan. You've put such a big hat on me. Don't think you can get off so easily. It was over. It looked like I was doomed to die. I started crying in fear. Hot tears fell onto Ju Cheng'an's fingers. His fingers trembled, but his face remained expressionless. Ji Hung is skilled in both medicine and secret arts, and is the saint of the Miao tribe. I invited him here specifically to regulate your body. I never thought someone of such noble status would stoop so low as to seduce another man's wife, acting like a whore from a brothel, playing hard to get, half pushing and half yielding, a cheap little vixen. He gritted his teeth. If I had known this would happen, I would have rather died in the mountains back then. Wasn't that the truth? If he had died in the mountains earlier, none of this would have happened. I cried even harder because a dagger was now pressed against my chin. I should have seen this coming. Ju Cheng'an was too proud a man to ever allow his wife to resort to borrowing a child from another man. He would never tolerate betrayal. Ju Cheng'an's face was cold. Did you have any feelings for him? No, he squinted. Really? Tears streaming down my face. I nodded frantically out of the corner of my eye. I thought I saw him let out a faint sigh of relief. Then he pulled me into his arms, gently patting my back. His voice rough. It's my fault, and that bastard's fault too. I thought I was hallucinating, but he kept muttering to himself, his tone growing more certain. What did you do wrong? You were just afraid I would divorce you. You love me too much, so you followed my orders. Abortion hurts the body. just give birth to the child. Since I'm your husband, I'll treat them as my own. Cut ties with him, I'll handle the rest. 10. Ju Cheng'en wouldn't let me see Ji Yu Hung anymore. He also refused to let me see my mother-in-law. He said he wanted to live a few more years, but my mother-in-law came to see me herself. She brought me the latest news about Ji Yu Hung. She clicked her tongue in amazement. That lover of yours is really shameless. I was confused. What do you mean? Since it was all a misunderstanding, and he saved your life. My son wasn't too hard on him. He just gave him a light beating and kicked him out. But the next day, he came limping back to find my son, saying he had to see you, or he would smash his head against the Ju family's gate. I was shocked. Logically, Ji Yu Hung hated me. He should have been happy to have a chance to escape me. Why would he want to see me that night? Ju Cheng'en watched me drink my pregnancy-stabilizing medicine, then said quietly, "Go see him." My body trembled. He hugged me, but his eyes were cold. "That bastard won't give up until he sees the coffin. I don't want you to see him either, but he represents the Miao tribe, and his noble, Miao men value chastity. Above all," he forced the words out, one by one, "if his parents find out and it reaches the emperor's ears, it won't end well." I was silent for a moment, then sighed. It's better to clear things up. It was still the small courtyard outside the city. Ju Cheng'en set me down and warned, "Don't let him know you're pregnant. If he tries anything improper, call me immediately." His face looked as if he had swallowed a fly. I nodded. Ji Yu Hung was standing in the courtyard. In just a few days, he had lost some weight. The slight movement of his clothes carried a pitiful, alluring charm. When he heard my footsteps, he turned his back to the moonlight and rushed toward me eagerly. "Did he do anything to you? Did he hit you? Did he deliberately torment you? You must have suffered so much these days." For some reason, my eyes grew wet. "No, I'm sorry. It was all a misunderstanding." Ji Yu Hung seemed to realize something. He gritted his teeth and sneered. "Do you think a simple apology can erase everything you did to me?" I said helplessly. "You might not believe me, but I only see you as a friend. I don't want to hold you back. You can find someone better. I know chastity is important to you, but I'm a married woman. I really can't take responsibility for you. The best I can do is give you 100 taels of gold as compensation." Su Qingwan, his eyes were red. "Are you going to abandon me after using me? Didn't you say that when your husband came back, you would divorce him and go back to the southwest with me?" No, those words in bed, how could he take them seriously? I was at a loss for words when suddenly, an arm wrapped around my waist. I lifted my head and saw Ju Cheng'en's superior jawline. He held me close, his gaze calm as he looked at another person. "Did you not hear her? She is a woman with a husband. Between her and me, there were the 3 letters and 6 rights. The 8 carried sedan chair, the union that honors the ancestral temple above and binds the 2 families below. A man of your station is not even worthy of my speaking these words to you." Ju Cheng'en's tone was indifferent, a hint of a mocking smile curling at the corner of his lips. "My wife is a bit scatterbrained, always doing foolish things, yet she is devoted to me alone. The occasional mistake is harmless. Since what happened between you two was merely an accident, end it and leave. Don't make yourself so unsightly." I could no longer bear to listen. Trembling, I crouched down, hugging my head, but Ji Yu Hung's trembling voice still pierced my ears. "Su Qingwan, I want to hear it from you." He asked me, "These past few months, truly, from beginning to end, did you never feel even a flicker of attraction toward me? If you deny it, I will never pester you again." I should have denied it immediately, but as I looked into those eyes that were almost begging, my mind suddenly went blank for a moment. In that 1 second of hesitation, Ju Cheng'en's hand, still resting on my waist, trembled almost imperceptibly. I came back to my senses. No, out of the corner of my eye, I saw the light in the young man's eyes gradually dim. He gave a bitter, self-mocking laugh. "Fine, it's just my bad luck, meeting the wrong person." 11 After that day, I never saw Ji Yu Hung again. The war in the southwest had settled, and Ju Cheng'en no longer needed to go on campaigns. I returned to my normal life. Ju Cheng'en brought in female physicians to verify the virginity of the concubines, then found them suitable husbands. As the principal wife, I felt a bit awkward. "Why didn't you sleep with them? Don't you like them?" he said calmly. My father was lustful, filling the house with bastard sons and daughters. The concubines grew arrogant, relying on their offspring. As far back as I can remember, our home was never at peace. Therefore, I made a vow before the ancestral tablets: in this life, I will only recognize my principal wife, and there will never be any illegitimate children. I don't want to force concubines to drink contraceptive potions, nor do I want to do something as cruel as inducing abortions, so the only way was to restrain myself. I said, "Oh," I patted my belly and sighed. Now he had no illegitimate children, but I did. Whenever Ju Cheng'en returned to the mansion, he would come to my quarters, gentle and affectionate, no longer cold and distant as before. He even clung to me constantly, whenever I left the house. Whether for a banquet or to burn incense at the temple, he would personally follow. I was utterly baffled and secretly asked my mother-in-law, "How is it that after being cuckolded, my husband's feelings for me have actually improved?" My mother-in-law sneered, "Men are like that, like dogs. Once another dog snatches their food, they become fiercely protective of it." I also began to sense that Ju Cheng'en was not quite right. He was busy with official duties and couldn't always stay at home. My mother-in-law, on a whim, took me out for a spring outing. By the time we returned, it was already dark. Ju Cheng'en discovered I wasn't home and panicked, sending his personal guards to search for me. When he found me, his voice hoarse, he would ask where I had been, whom I had seen, what I had done. At the Marquis's wife's polo match, the Marquis's youngest son took the field and won 3 consecutive rounds. That young man, perhaps a bit dizzy from the crowd's adulation, tossed his winnings into the spectator stands. By sheer coincidence, it landed right in front of me. Ju Cheng'en's face instantly turned cold, and he forcibly dragged me back to the mansion. His expression was icy, and his eyes were rimmed with red. He pushed me down into a chair, his hands gripping the armrests, and leaned down to scrutinize me, his voice trembling. "Did you know him before? Why was he looking at you and smiling? When you dismounted, your hand rested on his shoulder for a moment." I couldn't take it anymore, rubbing my temples. "He's only 17, what secret affair could I possibly have with him?" Ji Yuheng was also 17. As soon as the words left my mouth, both Ju Cheng'en and I froze. He closed his eyes, then looked down at me, his tone bitter. "Qingwan, you don't realize it, but you are very beautiful." My eyes widened slightly. He was actually calling me beautiful. Back when we argued, what had he said? "A woman of your ordinary looks, average at best, no one else in the world could tolerate you except me." But now, he gently stroked my face, restless and uneasy. "Qingwan, you really are beautiful. Everyone will like you, fall in love with you, and then try every way to take you from me, to possess you. This world is full of dangers. Those people might seduce you, kidnap you, and make it so I never see you again in this life." My husband seemed to be ill. He kept muttering to himself, looking foolish and dull. He must have gone mad. 12. I gave birth to twin daughters. My mother-in-law was overjoyed. She had been deeply hurt by my father-in-law back then, growing to loathe men, and had always wished for a daughter. In the end, she had only given birth to a son. Now, she had finally fulfilled her dream. When it came time to divide the household, my mother-in-law decisively kicked the several bastard children out of the house to establish their own families. Ju Cheng'en was promoted and ennobled, and he even secured a noble title for me. Everything seemed to be getting better, but then I suddenly began dreaming of Ji Yuheng. Sometimes it was of our intimate moments, other times it was of him coming to claim my life like a vengeful ghost. I would wake up in fright every night. Countless famous doctors came to see me, but none could find the cause. Finally, Ju Cheng'en sent a trusted subordinate to the Miao region in the southwest to bring back a trustworthy mountain doctor. The mountain doctor took one look at me and sighed. "Madam, do you have a past grievance with a man of my tribe?" I was stunned. The mountain doctor said, "Madam's symptoms correspond exactly to a secret technique of my tribe. Any woman who has had intimate relations with a man of my tribe will experience this. The difference is, if the man of my tribe loves this woman, and the feelings are mutual, the woman will have erotic dreams every night. If it is hatred, she will have nightmares." Ju Cheng'en's face had already turned ashen. He asked, "Is there a cure, unless that man changes his mind?" The mountain doctor paused, then comforted him. This technique does no harm to Madame's body, it merely costs her some energy. Zhu Cheng'an made a little doll with Ji Yu Heng's name on it. Whenever he had time, he would stick needles into it, but soon, he had no time for that. The emperor suddenly fell gravely ill. On the verge of death, the crown prince had not yet been appointed. The emperor had only 2 sons, the eldest, born of a noble consort, and the youngest, born of the empress. The question of whether to establish the eldest or the legitimate heir remained unresolved. It was a time of political upheaval, and Zhu Cheng'an, as a powerful minister, naturally couldn't leave. 3 days later, the palace began preparing for funeral rites, and the eldest prince was ready to ascend the throne. At the critical moment, the empress, from some unknown source, found a physician. My skills bring life back to the dying. In just a few hours, the emperor had recovered more than half. Word spread that this man was not only a master of medicine but could also predict the fate of the nation. He had now been appointed as the imperial advisor. Everything settled down. I entered the palace to pay my respects to the Empress Dowager. She noticed my complexion was poor and asked with concern, "Lady Zhongyong, are you unwell?" I forced a smile. "Just trouble sleeping, an old problem." The Empress Dowager clapped her hands. What a coincidence. The imperial advisor just finished taking my pulse and is still outside the hall. Let him examine you as well. I quickly expressed my gratitude until the next moment, when I saw the person who entered. I was completely stunned. 13. Unlike my shock, Ji Yu Heng appeared much calmer. He took out a silk handkerchief and gently placed it over my wrist. Through the thin layer of gauze, his fingertips roamed across my pulse point. Neither hurried nor slow, he lowered his eyes. The lady carries a heavy burden in her heart, and childbirth has depleted her qi and blood. Without timely acupuncture to regulate, I fear there will be lingering consequences. Acupuncture, I snapped back to reality. I dare not trouble the imperial advisor. I will find my own physician when I return home. He interrupted me lightly but firmly. Ordinary acupuncture will not work. Only the unique acupuncture techniques of our Miao tribe can be effective. I shook my head. Men and women should maintain propriety. Let's forget it. How can you so easily dismiss this? The Empress Dowager frowned and cut in. A woman's ailments cannot be ignored. You must take good care of yourself. What is this talk of propriety and chastity? Is reputation more important than life and health? The imperial advisor's medical skills are superb. He not only saved His Majesty but has also examined all the imperial consorts. Every single case was cured. Your mother-in-law is well acquainted with me. If she were here today, she would insist you receive treatment. I suppose the lady fears that the Duke of Zhongyong would not approve, Ji Yu Heng said indifferently. I have heard that the Duke keeps the lady under very strict watch, unable to part with her for even a moment. The Empress Dowager declared fiercely. Why would he disapprove? An ignorant, jealous husband who does not understand how precious a woman's body is. Qingwan, let the imperial advisor examine you without worry. This matter will not be spread. If your husband finds out, tell him to come to me. By the time I came to my senses, I had already been led into a chamber. My outer robe had been quietly removed by the maidservant. A tingling sensation spread across my shoulder blades. I turned my head and saw a cold, distant face. His expression was calm as his fingertips brushed over places he had once kissed countless times with tenderness. Back then, he was only fierce with his words, arguing with everyone, but most of the time, he was obedient. When I teased him too much, he would only lower his red-rimmed eyes and gently push me away, saying, "Don't do this." Not like now, expressionless, he pressed a needle as thick as a finger against my back and asked with a smile, "Madam, why are you trembling?" I shook my head, my voice trembling. When will it start?" "Soon," he said flatly, then he fell silent. The window was not fully closed, a cold wind blew in, and my outer robe, draped over the rack, fell silently to the ground. The maidservant bent down to pick it up. The moment she turned, the needle tip pierced my skin. A sharp pain shot through me. I instinctively cried out, but the sound was completely muffled. Cloth rustled. He bit down hard, then bent down to pick up the fallen silver needle. Since the lady is so afraid of pain, let's forget it. He withdrew the needle and no longer looked at me. I returned to the mansion. My heart still pounding, Ju Cheng'en took off my shoes and held me in his arms. He suddenly stiffened, staring at me blankly. You smell of someone else. 14 Ji Yu Hung had saved the emperor's life thus. The emperor trusted him immensely. His influence was so great that even Ju Cheng'en, a high-ranking minister with real power, had to tread carefully. The two of them met daily at court. I was very worried. Every time Ju Cheng'en returned, I would ask endlessly. He always said darkly, "Are you worried about me, or about him?" In early spring, the emperor's health had recovered, and he held a banquet. I brought my two children into the palace. On the palace path, I saw Ji Yu Hung. From a distance, he was walking side by side with several ministers, seemingly discussing state affairs. Compared to his youthful self from a few years ago, he appeared colder and more aloof. It was the transformation brought by power. In my line of sight, Ji Yu Hung suddenly stopped. He subtly turned his gaze in my direction. I quickly turned my back, pretending to talk to the children. That gaze lingered silently for a long time. For some reason, I also heard a cold laugh in the imperial garden. I was pulled behind a rockery. Ji Yu Heng's icy face loomed before me. Su Qingwan. He touched my face expressionlessly, his pitch-black pupils filled with raging fury. Do you really think I wouldn't recognize my own blood? 15 The Miao people have a natural bond among kin. Ji Yu Hung trembled with rage. Su Qingwan, you have gone too far. Those are my daughters, and you let them call another man father. With such cruelty, I truly want to kill you. His words became a prophecy. At the banquet, the imperial consort attempted to usurp the throne and poisoned the emperor's wine. Her maidservant was incompetent. She mixed up the wine. In the end, the cup was placed on my table. I took a sip. I immediately vomited blood and met my end with bitterness in my peripheral vision. The two powerful ministers beside the emperor both changed expressions at the same time. Was this my retribution? I don't know how long passed. I opened my eyes, but I couldn't see anything, yet my body felt much more comfortable. This must be the final flicker of life before death. I raised my hand and touched a wet face. I instinctively said, Ju Cheng'en. He grabbed my hand and let out a low I gripped harder than he did. Listen, I need to give my final instructions. Ju Cheng'en's voice was so hoarse he could barely speak. Qingwan, listen to me, you won't die. He was still comforting me. At a time like this I wouldn't listen. I gritted my teeth. Take good care of my two children. He paused, then followed my lead. I will find them good husbands. Not that. I glared at him, trying to force out his conscience. Swear to me now that you will leave all your wealth to them. He had once said he would treat them as his own. I had the right to demand this. After watching Ju Cheng'en swear, I felt relieved. Your mother is healthy. If you remarry, send the two children to her to raise. If you dare to treat my daughters poorly or embezzle their money, I will haunt you even as a ghost. Everything that needed to be said was said. I lay back down, resigned to dying in peace. Ju Cheng'en seemed to let out a faint laugh. Is there anything else you want to say to me? Ji Yu Hung is here too. Let's get it all out today. Of course, some words, if not said now, would never have the chance. My voice trembled with emotion. Do you know, I have a dream. I want a husband who is dignified and steady, who can earn money for me outside, win me face, and secure me an honorable title. I also want a young, gentle concubine, who can manage the household and raise the children inside. Best of all, if they can get along harmoniously, working together to serve me. A virtuous husband and a beautiful concubine. How delightful, how joyful. That is my dream too. From the corner came my mother-in-law's faint, haunting voice. I smiled, deeply moved. How fortunate in just 30 short years, I had managed to find a kindred spirit in this lowly, foul place. All right, all the words in my heart have been spoken. I can die now. I closed my eyes peacefully. Why, oh why, am I still breathing? 16 Good news. I didn't die. Bad news. I didn't die. This bad news was too terrible. It took me a long time to recover from it. When Ji Yu Hung fed me medicine, I tried to play dumb. Who are you? Ju Cheng'en walked in with his hands behind his back, and I panicked, my face losing color. And who are you? My head hurts so much I can't remember anything. Ji Yu Hung sneered coldly, about to say something, but Ju Cheng'en held him back. He swept a cool glance over me, pretending to have amnesia. I nodded with tears in my eyes. then shook my head wildly. I really have amnesia. The medicine is getting cold. Ji Yu-hung snorted lightly, forcefully pulling me to his side. I don't care if it's real or fake. You have to drink it now. Ju Cheng'en frowned from the side. Be gentle, she just woke up. She's weak. The medicine was so bitter. I almost threw up all over Ji Yu-hung. He fumbled to pat my back, hitting so hard that tears burst from my eyes. Ju Cheng'en, impatient, took me from his hands. See, this way, she'll feel comfortable. Learn a thing or two once you're in the house. Something felt off, but Ju Cheng'en took care of me so well that I drifted off into a hazy sleep. When I woke up, my ears were filled with the sound of firecrackers. My mother-in-law pulled me up, beaming with joy. My child, great news. I was bewildered. What news? News of adding a new member to the family. She dressed me as she explained. I had already been dead, but the national master once again turned the tide, using a secret southwestern technique to forcefully pull me back from the clutches of the King of Hell. The Duke of Loyalty and Bravery was so grateful that he took him as his sworn brother, writing him into the Ju family lineage. Gratitude must be repaid. Brothers must be respectful. A beautiful tale. Even the emperor was moved and issued a decree, recording Ji Yu-hung under my mother-in-law's name. Today was the day to welcome Ji Yu-hung into the mansion. In the main hall, Ju Cheng'en and I sat below. Ji Yu-hung, dressed in red robes, stood silently on the ground. Mother, my mother-in-law responded with affection. He turned expressionlessly. Brother, sister-in-law, Ju Cheng'en nodded. Younger brother, my mother-in-law reminded him. Hunger, won't you offer tea to your elder brother? Kneel, offer tea. I didn't know there was such a custom. The next second, Ji Yu-hung dropped to his knees with a thud, his eyes lowered. He raised the teacup above his head. Brother, please drink the tea. A shortening of my lifespan. I jumped up, but Ju Cheng'en sat steadily, calmly taking the cup and taking a sip. Now that you're in our mansion, you must know your place and abide by your duties. As brothers from now on, let us live in harmony and work together. Extra at 17, Ji Yu-hung rejected the girl his parents had arranged for him. He was full of ambition. I refuse to be trapped by marriage. The world is vast. I want to go out and explore. Just then, he rescued a man from the capital. He packed his bags, bid farewell to his hometown and family, determined to heal the sick and save lives in the capital, to build a career. At 18, he was robbed of his first time by a despicable woman. She first insulted him, then seduced him at every turn, dragging him into the mire of desire, taking his pure, untainted body. When rejected, she would become dejected, her eyes reddening, softening anyone's heart. A weak, pitiful rabbit, but beneath the skin lay a cunning fox. He was just a young man from a small town. How could he withstand such tactics? Whatever she said, he did. At 19, he fell from grace, becoming a hidden lover. Those days in the small courtyard outside the city were the most torturous time of Ji Yu-hung's life. Every time she came to see him, 9 times out of 10 it was to sleep, and after sleeping, she would pat his face and leave without mercy. He stood at the courtyard gate every day, waiting for her. At 20, that woman's husband returned. This cold, heartless, faithless woman. She abandoned him without hesitation. Ji Yu-hung's heart was shattered. He swore to the sky that he would never love again, or else he would shorten his life by 30 years. At 21, he worked hard, finally finding an opportunity to become the revered national master. He thought he must take revenge on that woman, but before he could act, a cup of poisoned wine took away 50 years of her life. He held her cold hand, no longer daring to hate her whether she was fickle or faithless. As long as she was happy, alive, and happy, he activated the highest level Southwestern secret technique, borrowing life. Her husband, having fought on battlefields for years, covered in scars, could at most contribute 20 years. The rest had to come from him. Today marks the 10th year since Ji Yu-hung left his hometown. He spent the day out treating patients, came back in the evening to educate the 2 little rascals, washed Su Qingwan's undergarments clean, and personally made her favorite dishes, finally getting a moment to be intimate with her. But that old, immortal man returned from court and took her away. On the way back to his room, he remembered his 17-year-old self, bravely rejecting an arranged marriage. That young boy had said to his parents, "Women only hinder my progress." But none of that had anything to do with the man he was now.